Okay.
We're back in session after our break. Under new business, item number 2, motion to approve Wayne County 2015 Emergency Medical Service Medicare rates. Mr. Wood?
Yes, sir, you have a memo from Mr. Burns on page 45 talking about this. What we were going to ask is to have Jeremy Hill come up, our EMS director, and go over this with you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I've enjoyed my time with Wayne County. I've been here now for 4 months. I've enjoyed working with the staff, and you have excellent EMS staff. The men and women there are proud to serve, and I thank you for the opportunity you've given us. Today I'm here to talk to you really quick about a recommendation we received from our billing company. As you're aware, Wayne County provides EMS services at the paramedic level, which is the highest level of service provided. We also provide a non-emergency division that is overseen and run by Nanette Sutton. So we're here today at the recommendation of our billing company to increase our rates more in line with the 2015 suggested rates. Those were provided to you, which is the suggested rate that the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services have provided. And what we're seeking is that we follow in line with the counties around us and with the recommendations from our billing company. Do you have those rates that have been provided to you? Would you like me to go through each one of those? Or, we are seeking that we bill at the recommended rate suggested by our billing company, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions or have any discussion about that.
Yeah, just go over briefly for us so we're...
Absolutely. The current rate that Wayne County charges for a ALS non-emergency call is currently $316 as a base fee for that transport. The proposed charge that we're seeking recommendation for would be $335.37. Now that is a situation where a paramedic is performing the assessments but not performing the requirements to get to a ALS emergency. It may be where a paramedic is providing an inter-facility transport or not using a specific drug set or algorithm set. The additional ALS emergency is when the paramedic is engaged in life-saving procedures, 2 or more medications administered, and airway and advanced vascular access practices. That current charge is $505 with a recommended 2015 increase to $531.01. The BLS non-emergency fee currently is set at $264, and we are seeking an increase to $279.49, and that increase is pertaining to patients that we transport from facility to facility, such as an individual who may be ambulance confined or stretcher confined and need moved from their residence to a dialysis facility or a doctor's visit, but they have to be medically necessary to be on that stretcher. They have to have no ability to ambulate for that. The BLS emergency is when an EMT determines and the patient needs to go into an emergency room environment, but it's not at the level where the individual needs vascular access and advanced medications, but it's still urgent that that individual gets moved to an emergency room for a physician evaluation. We're seeking to increase that rate to $447.17. The ALS-2 charge is the highest charge that we currently have under utilization for Wayne County. An ALS-2 designation, an individual has received substantial advanced life support from the paramedic, more than 2 medications in an emergency, such as anyone having a heart attack where they're receiving several medications, several interventions. That current fee is sitting at $725. And the proposed fee is $768.57. The specialty care designation, Wayne County is currently not at that level, and that is for the possibility of the future. If we are to move towards a specialty care transport, that fee structure is set by Medicare allowable rates, and then obviously if we move to that direction, then that's something that we're seeking to get approval on. And then our current mileage is sitting at $8.50 per mile that the patient is loaded in the ambulance, and the ambulance is in motion to the hospital, with the proposed rate of 2015 moving forward from today would be $9.45 a mile.
Mr. Dodd.
Yes, sir.
Why is that urban there and not rural?
That determination is made by the Center of Medicare and Medicaid based off of population and zip code and the 2010 census information. That is not a determination set by EMS. That is set by the Center of Medicare CMS services.
All right, the second question is, you've got 130% of MFS. What is MFS?
That is the, I'm not 100% sure on the MFS, the acronym there, but that's the Medicare, Medicaid recommended rates. The 2015 recommended rate is set at 130%, and essentially that is taking the current allowable charge and going to the $335.37 like on the ALS 2. So we're actually going at the 130% of what the Medicare is recommending, because just like when you receive an explanation of benefits, you have what the doctor has billed for the services, the contractual allowance, then the amount that you do not owe and the amount that you do owe. We're seeking to bill at the highest rate to capture all of the money that's allowable for the services we're providing.
Thank you.
The other thing, go ahead.
Mr. Martin.
I want to back up. When you started your presentation, you said, who was it recommending to you that these fees be raised?
Yes, sir.
Who?
The billing company that Wayne County EMS and Wayne County uses, it's EMS and Consultants. It's the company that we've selected. They're Emergency Medical Management and Consultants, EMS MC, and that's who we contract with to provide billing for all the services that we provide.
And they decided that you need an increase. Why?
It's a very common thing that they do related to the ambulance services that provide each year. The Medicare, Medicaid bills, each year those rates are released.
And so, right now, Wayne County EMS needs an increase because of salary, equipment, the medication is costing more. I mean, why are we talking about an increase? Because this is please and forgive me, this is just a citizen kicking in me now. I'm just wanting to know.
No, absolutely, sir. The cost of providing emergency services is obviously rising. Medication shortages are rising. These rates are, the money that we collect for this is obviously applied back to the general fund. EMS
In
is,
the county budget.
Right.
yes, sir, it's put back in the general fund in the county budget. The EMS services that we provide, the cost for that is higher than what we collect. But it is a 911 service that we have to provide, and we provide at the highest level of care.
So now, if I got you right, that ALS2 A4433
Yes, sir.
is it standing at $725?
Mhm.
So if Mr. Jones is having a heart attack out there, it's gonna cost him $725 plus $8.50 a mile to get to the hospital
If he has met the criteria of
if he's having a heart
if
attack.
he's having a heart attack and receives the certain medications of nitroglycerin, morphine, and pain
So it's
medicine.
gonna cost him $725 now, plus $8.50 a mile.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Jones is a current taxpayer,
Yes, sir.
paying taxes.
Yes, sir.
And everybody who's driving that truck is on the taxpayer's payroll.
I think the issue, Ed, is that when you look at the budget for the EMS fund, the fees don't pay for itself. To the extent that you don't charge fees, you would have to charge more property taxes to support it. So it really comes down to this is a service that you provide. It's roughly about half and half. I'd have to look at the full details on it, but it's roughly about half and half, fee supported and then tax supported.
And the
So-
reason that I bring this
So,
up,
so I guess, well, let me finish. My
Oh, I'm sorry.
point is that while taxpayers have paid for it, they've only paid 50% of it, roughly. So if you don't charge the fees, or if you don't keep the fees current, then basically you're pushing that cost over to the other taxpayers. So the question becomes, how much of it ought to be fee supported? How much of it ought to be tax supported? And of course, that's a call, that's a policy decision for the board to make.
And let me interrupt just a minute. And one of the key things too, and we used the example that you were talking about, Mr. Camardi, The Medicare allowable is $591.21. Wayne County current charges is $725. We're looking at going to $768.57. That Medicare allowable, if they pay that, but in a lot of cases, what has not been mentioned is what the insurance picks up afterwards. And so it's really the gap between the $591 and the $768. If you factor in the insurance, what they're going to pay,
Right.
it's not costing the citizens. And some people don't have it, well, they're supposed to have insurance now, but we're going to provide the service anyhow. But we need to keep in mind now that the gap is not really as wide as what this graph shows, if you factor in the insurance. Mr. Mayor.
Just one quick and I'll be finished. One of my constituents in District 2 brought up the fact with me that I can't remember the exact specifics, but I would want to make sure that you understand that I question this because a lot of taxpayers out there, a lot of citizens out there who's paying taxes right now, number one, they feel like the cost is too, and everybody does not cut about an insurance. I mean, some people who call you all gonna get a bill. It's not all, see, sometimes if there's a place over here where it says Medicaid or Medicare or something, sometimes there's an assumption that it's okay because you're not gonna have to come out of that out of pocket. But I did talk to a young lady about 6-8 weeks ago that she said to me, and she'll probably look at this telecast, that she elected to get herself to the hospital because when she found out how much it was gonna cost, she decided to try to get herself there. And I can only tell you just how I feel. We need to be extremely considerate of the public when we raise fees because and I realize the calculation, Mr. Manager, that the public is only covering about 50% of it, but still, when the public has to pay for something that a lot of public feel like they're already paying for, and I realize that at some point taxes might go up so we get everybody, but I'll follow with this right here. If a person is in this county and they're not property taxpayers and they don't have a Medicaid card, who pays for that?
The services we provide are billed to the patient that receives the services.
And if they don't pay for it?
We have a collection process where we send that individual to the collections, and we have a process where that individual receives several bills, and then we also have the ability to do debt set off with that individual if they've not.
But they file it with their insurance initially, and that's, I think, what Wayne was talking about. So their insurance may pick up some or all of it.
Would you say there's probably a copay along with that insurance to the public? I mean, like you go, okay, I have insurance, but I go in the doctor's office, I have to pay a copay before they go see me.
Well, that depends on what their insurance policy says.
Each insurance will be different, and we don't collect any fees before we provide care. We provide the care, we transport the individual to the appropriate destination, and we complete the bill afterward. Complete the documentation afterwards, and a bill submitted afterwards through our billing vendor.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
Just have you can tell my voice is going. What about Medicaid? Does Medicaid pay, how much of your recommended charges that we're gonna have in 2015 does Medicaid, what's the ratio?
I do have a Medicaid fee schedule. Medicaid fee schedules is much lower. And when you participate in Medicaid or Medicare, you are accepting, when you're a provider for those, you accept the rates that they pay. They don't negotiate their rates. The government sets those rates, and we submit the claim. The claim can be for $50, and they're only going to pay their preset portion of that. An example of that is in an ALS charge, I'll do a BLS charge. A BLS charge of $316. We'll submit that bill, and Medicaid allowable is currently sitting at $70.75 is the Medicaid reimbursement rate for that.
So basically, the rest of the taxpayers end up subsidizing.
That's my point, is that that's where the taxpayer comes up. On Medicare that I'm on, I have a supplement that will pick up the balance of what's owed. But in Medicaid, it is not. The second question I had was that item number 4, which is the BLSE 80429.
Yes, sir.
I see that is the highest percentage of increase that we have. It went up $100. And that's a much higher percentage than, other than specialty care, that is the highest percentage of increase. And I was wondering, could you elaborate on why that is?
I did not prepare that document, and I will have to, I'll have to get you a follow-up answer in return with that information at the next opportunity. The BLS emergency, I do see exactly what you're referencing, the increase from 345 currently to 447.17.
Yes, sir.
And I have to ask for clarification from our representative that provided this document to us. I did not catch the increase there.
May I ask one more question?
Yes, sir.
Whatever the percent of increase that we might approve, a percentage of that is going to that person, that consultant firm you're speaking of? Is that a yes or no?
No, this is just a recommendation of rates.
Well, that's what I mean.
Contractually
Is
speaking.
it a set contract or is it a percent?
Mr. Gurley.
We have a contract with that agency for the EMSMC agency, that is correct. And they provide us on what they collect, they provide a fee of what they're able to collect of 8% of what their collection rate is.
So the answer to my question is there is a sliding scale of what they get, or did I miss it?
8% of collectibles.
8% of collection. So if the fee is higher, the amount that they can collect is higher, and so the 8% is greater.
Correct.
But again, if you don't take the fees up, the amount you're gonna have to subsidize it out of your general fund money is just gonna be higher.
And Mr. Chairman, well,
Mr.
make
Gurley.
one statement. With EMS Management Consultant, we've been under contract with them since 2001. And part of their responsibility to us is to keep us in line with the fee schedule. And they do an annual review in comparison with surrounding counties. And I'd also like to add that this company probably does the majority of work in North Carolina. So they try to keep us above board and try to offset taxpayers by taking responsibility and tasking the insurance companies.
I'm by no means having fault with that company. I'm talking about the process. I'm just talking about the process, not having a thing, because I'm sure they're above board and all that, but thank you.
And Mr. Daugherty, go ahead.
If I'm understanding this correctly, Medicare established the allowable fees,
That's correct.
and they change that once a year.
That's correct.
And so basically, all we're doing is adjusting our schedule based upon Medicare coming out with their new fees.
That's correct. Early January 2015, they released their fees.
You
In
do this
mid-January.
every year, it's a common practice, and you generally take 130% of their recommendation.
That's correct.
So if they are allowing $100, then we are gonna make our charges $130.
That's correct.
But that goes up every year. So, well, it changes every year.
That's correct.
It changes, okay.
Yes, sir.
But generally, if it's medical, it's gonna go up. So all we're doing is adjusting ours based upon the Medicare allowable rate. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And keep in mind now, EMS is a very expensive part of Wayne County to maintain. The equipment is going up every year. I can't say the same about salaries, but the equipment and the call volume is one thing that's driving this. I mean, the call volume for Wayne County, and and I'm gonna go out on a limb, y'all throw eggs at me. It's probably the most abused thing in Wayne County that we provide a service for. I mean, anytime that there's an emergency that someone needs EMS, that's all well and good. But, I've been there and done that. It is abused. There's call after call, people calling to go to the hospital with a splinter in their finger or a knot on their leg that's been there 2 years, that they could get someone in a private vehicle to take them to the hospital. Well, I know I'm gonna get some flack on this, but I'm just telling it like it is. It is abused, and the taxpayer is having to pay for it. And I've probably said enough.
I'd like to just speak to one piece of that. In 2014, in the data that we reviewed, we run approximately, I can give you the exact numbers, but we've ran over 17,000 911 activations for an EMS request. The NET division did over 6,000, so that's a total of Wayne EMS and Wayne NET running about 23,000 activations in Wayne County. Now, I'm very proud of the fact that the 911 side, we were able to answer those 17,000 activations around the 8-minute and 20-second interval from time of 911 call, 911 what's your emergency, till paramedic arrival or EMT arrival at the residence. I'm Jeremy from Wayne County, I'm here to help, was 8 minutes and 20 seconds. So I think we have done a really outstanding job in the past in providing services, and I would like to reference the piece that you spoke about regarding the equipment. The monitor that we would utilize on the individual that you referenced earlier who would possibly be having a heart attack, that monitor and the specialized procedures that we can perform, the monitor's around $30,000 expenditure for the EKG, and it's a purchase device that does all the assessment, and the paramedic is using on that call. So
Purchase with taxpayers' money.
purchase from funds from Wayne County, that's correct.
That's what I mean.
Yes, sir.
And that's the same taxpayer that's paying this fee. I'm
Yes,
saying
sir.
generally.
Yes, sir.
That's
He's not
why,
paid it twice. He's only paid for half of it through the tax,
pay for half of it through the taxes
and
and
the other half through fees, roughly. It's not like he's being billed twice.
not a mini bill, the whole $725 twice.
Okay.
He is being billed twice. He's paying something twice.
No,
well-
no, because you only paid part of it through the property tax, so somebody's got to
That's
pay
one
the other
time.
half of it.
Okay, but that's one time. And then with this part of his fee, that's the second time. Does that make two times?
That makes a half and a half is one.
But it's twice. It might end up in a hole, but it's twice. Let me just close with this. It's just something that I always question. It's just something that I always I just have to ask that kind of question, and just to connect the dots. When we came in, and I won't belabor this, but with the transporting folk with the gateway, that fee was getting ready to go up, and we watched that real close, and we worked on it to make sure it stayed down. And if I remember correctly, the health department came in with a fee that needed to be raised because the state was raising something, and we looked real close at that, and we made sure that that didn't get adjusted at the expense of the public. Some other gray-haired people out there in Scotland look like me. I'm just sorry. That's my concern, and I know you're doing a great job, and I know things cost, but I'm gonna close this, and I won't be funny, but I'm gonna let's ask the sheriff department something. At what point would you all start raising your fees if you had to go out and lock somebody up because it was, never mind that. I close.
Anyone else have any questions for,
I close.
anyone else have any questions for, Jeremy or Mr. Wood?
Do we need a motion?
We need a motion.
I make the motion that we approve it.
I have a motion on the floor. We approve this, recommendation. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. All opposed? Ms. Marshall's 61 vote. 6-4, 1 against. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
He got there in 8 minutes sometime.
Item number 3, update on the E911 facility. Mr. Wood, if you would.
Yes, sir, if y'all would turn to page 47 in your agenda packet. I just want to go through this. As I said earlier, this is really a discussion of following through on the report that we got from 911. What we had a meeting, Tommy Burns, myself, Brian Taylor, and Mel Powers. We wanted to go through in detail that report and make sure we had nailed down everything that was an action point we needed to look at. And what we wanted to do then was look at what needed to be done first and go through in what order it appeared to us things needed to be done. So I wanted to go over this with y'all, and again, this is a discussion to see how you want to proceed with this. But basically, our feeling is that we need, first of all, to hold the equipment auction at Pinewood. The reason for that is we need to free up the area in Pinewood. When we free up the Pinewood Fire Station, then we're able to move Wayne Net, which is in one of our stations now, over to Pinewood. Once you do that, then we want to have Milford and Facilities Maintenance do an assessment, and they can already be doing that, of the repairs to Station 6. Now, Station 6 is the one on Madison, and that is where Wayne Net is right now. So we would have them go in, make an assessment, be ready to go in and make those repairs. Then you could move Station 4 to Station 6. Now, for those of you who don't know, Station 4 is the station at the 911 center. You know, when you go to the center, you have an EMS station with 2 or 3 bays sitting there. We want to recapture that space in the 911 building. But in order to do that, we need to play all of this musical chairs and get to that point. That's been if you read through the study too, that's been a contention all along because it's a disruption to the 911 center when the sirens are going off literally right below the 911 center as an EMS call's going out, and here we are trying to run a 911 center right above the floor above. So that would do all of that. Then we would move the EMS shift supervisor to Station 6, which is on Madison. That recaptures 2 offices on the 2nd floor of the 911 center currently. So all of that would need to take place first, in our opinion, and then that frees up that space. On the 911 center options, number 1, look at the option of repurposing the 3rd floor of the Jeffries building for the 911 center and move the planning offices to the 1st floor after renovation. That's why we need to recapture that space.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
let
Doty.
me go with this first there. That's a mouthful.
Okay.
All right, what I'm understanding is, we're talking about moving Wayne Net to Pinewood.
Yes,
All right, where Wayne Net is currently, which is in Madison Avenue,
Madison.
in
The-
that facility.
The EMS station that's at the 911 center would go there. Jeremy's already done the station relocation study. There'd be no decline in response times or anything like that.
All right, the question I have is move EMS shift supervisor to Station 6, which basically is gonna be at Madison.
Right. And so you're gonna move him over
Why
there.
the shift supervisor, what are you talking about here?
You've got the supervisor over the whole shift. You've got, what is it, 9 stations? And the shift supervisor's over that shift.
He's over all 9 of them.
Oh, okay, and he currently is on the 2nd floor.
He's on the 2nd floor. We wanna capture that space.
Okay,
And if we have the space at another station, we want to put him there. Because right now, he's located at the Jeffries building. The station's right there. It's not going to be there anymore. So there's no need to have the shift supervisor there. We'll have him at one of the working stations.
His responsibility and duty would not change by moving his.
That's right. That's right.
and we don't see that there would be any issues in regards to using Pinewood for Wayne Net, in regards to coming out onto New Hope Road with all the traffic at that intersection and so forth. That's not gonna be an issue.
Just keep in mind that Wayne Net is the non-emergency side of.
Yeah. So they can get out.
Okay,
They can get out.
all right.
All right, so did that take care of the first
Oh,
part?
yes, thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
So back to the 911 center then. there are several options. Look at the option of repurposing the third floor. And there were several of us who went, Dan Mace with Mosley Architects, we brought him in along with Mission Critical, and he works with Mission Critical on these. We went through, Wayne was there, Tommy, myself, Mel, Brian, several of us, went through all of that, and what we determined was, we thought initially we might be able to switch the EOC in this. And what we found is the EOC is too narrow, but what they could do is take the third floor where the planning offices are, and that goes wall to wall because, and so it's much wider. So we could actually relocate a 911 center, take it up one floor, and then you have much more room there. So if you're going to do a renovation of the current 911 center, that would be the logical layout. Then you're gonna have to come up with some more room, because obviously we needed more room than we have to expand it. Well, if you take that bay area and you take the EMS station out of it, and you take the shift supervisor out of it, you've picked up a lot of room that we can convert to office space on the ground floor, and then relocate some of those planning offices to there that are on the third floor now. As well as when you vacate the second floor where the 911 center is, then that becomes office space as well. So that would be the option if we're going to look at renovation. The second option would be to build a new center. And then the third option is to look at a regional approach. This would be a new center, but it would be going in with another county. And we've had some feelers in the past from Greene County, so we have gone ahead and made an initial contact there. Nothing firm at this point. Tommy and I are going back. He's had an initial conversation. We're going back and talking to them now. I will tell you they're in the throes of making a changeover from a longtime interim manager to a brand-new manager, isn't that right? Started last night, so, and you know how managers are, so we gotta work through that issue and get him on board, get him settled down, and then we need to sit down. But we wanna look at the possibility of going into a combined 911 center with them. And if we do that, then we're probably looking at, that would, if we're gonna build, then that would be the logical time to look at that, if you're gonna do it new. So we see those as the 911 center options: new, regional new, or renovate what we have. And what we're trying to do is, obviously the easiest thing, but probably most expensive, is to build new. But if we're going to renovate, then we've got to take these kinds of steps to get there. Now, part of that is we need to move forward with this grant, as I mentioned to you, and it's due April the 7th. So what we looked at is we have prepared an RFQ for an architect. And this is notes that Tommy had prepared on the 23rd following our meeting. We already have the RFQ for you. It's on page 48. And what we're asking you today is to authorize us to send this RFQ out. Now, it does both things. It's going to look at whether to renovate or build new. And then we'll go from there as far as how we select the person and what do we do from there. But we're pretty much having to go through the same process we did on the jail, is make a determination of what's the best decision long-term for the county, and making sure if we're going to renovate, we don't want to be back in the situation in 10 or 12 years that we find ourselves in now, where we're in basically a landlocked area. We need to make sure that, we're planning for the future so that we have ample room in here that we can handle the call volume that we're going to have in the future. So we're asking that you authorize us to send the RFQ out and get this process underway. Part of the reason for that is we're going to have some architect assistance before we know what to apply for in this April 9 grant or April 7th grant. At the current time, we don't know whether to go for brand new or a renovation, but there needs to be enough discussion of this, an investigation of this renovation to see if it's viable or not. Because if it's not, then that makes the decision easy. If it is, then the Facilities Committee is gonna need to make a recommendation back to the board of which way do we go about doing the grant, and which way we head on that. The second thing is, you know, when we hired Mission Critical, there were two things we wanted from them. One was the study that we got. The second is they have an outstanding track record in North Carolina on these grants. I don't think they've ever been turned down for one. So what we want to do is, the second proposal today is to have you authorize us to authorize them to enter into the agreement which we have in your packet on the, to help us prepare the grant proposal. And with that, we think we're then in a situation where we're moving forward in time for the grant. We're making the critical decisions about whether we go renovation or new. We're making the changes we need at Pinewood, freeing up the space over there so that we can renovate. And then the last aspect of it is the personnel impact. And that actually is the last thing we need to do, because we don't have to make any decisions on that really until budget time. So as we started looking at this, what seemed to be the critical issue, you really can't get into until we have the place to put everybody. And so what we looked at there was a discussion on implementing staffing recommendations from Mission Critical. The recommended path to emergency medical dispatch, emergency fire dispatch, and emergency police dispatch would include a staffing increase utilizing a 3-2-3-2-2 approach. If you go back to his study, he was talking about before you could do EMD, you'd have to have at least those 4 people. You remember that? You'd have to add the 4 people, and then before you could do EFD and EPD, you need 6 more people. So he was talking about a total of 10 people. And so what we looked at is what's the least we could do over each year. So what this is how many each year over a 5-year period to get that in, to where we phase in over a 5-year period, we would have all 3 of these protocols in place. But it would take us 5 years to get there, because I don't see any way we're going to be able to do this much quicker than that with everything else we're facing. So, but again, that discussion we don't need to get into today, other than to say that's facing us long term. And then the last thing we want to do is, and we've begun it, is, if you recall, we talked about doing a survey, keeping a list of the calls that come in, trying to identify these administrative calls. So we're going to do that throughout February. Try to nail down the number of administrative calls to see what's the impact, how much of those can we cut back. And then, as we say here, we want to talk to the city manager and the police chief in Goldsboro and see about trying to cut those back. Because they are having a lot of administrative calls transferred into either the 911 center, the 911 call, or to our administrative number in 911. Either way, it's tying up our people. So we want to look at that. So that's kind of an overview of how your staff saw it, and just wanted to open that up and see where you want to go from here. Again, our recommendations, the 2 recommendations today would be, if you're prepared to proceed on, is we would request for qualifications for the architect. And again, Tommy has worked with Noel. We have that ready to go. Then the second would be is the motion to approve the contract with Mission Critical Partners to help us work on the grant, basically to submit the grant.
Any other questions, Mr. Wood? Mr. Gurley?
Just kind of observation, the chart calls beginning of February, it's the last thing on here probably to be done first, though, so we kind of get a.
Yeah, and that's being done.
Yeah, that way we can maybe scale down some of those call volumes, it won't be such an
That's
impact on
right.
employees.
And we just treated it, Joe, under personnel
Yeah.
impact, but you're right. That part has started.
Okay. Before we ice in, and this is just observation, just speaking out loud so everybody kind of know what I'm thinking. Before we ice in the Waynette move to Pinewood, while we're talking to Greene County for that regional approach, and that's going to look favorable by the State 911 Fund Board, let's keep that kind of in open mind too for Regional 911 Center. It'll be in better close proximity to Greene County. It might be more palatable to them as well. That's just a thought.
You mean
Secondly,
to put a 911 center
Yeah.
there?
because it's going to be closer to Greene
Yeah.
County, quicker access.
Right up 13.
That's right.
Yeah.
The second thing, just for thought, is, and I hope Ag Center comes to fruition very quickly for us, but if we vacate the Wayne Center and the Farm Service Agency, that Farm Service Agency, quite possibly a great, fantastic 911 center with the structure way it's built. I just don't know about the proximity of the tower with microwaves things. But I said that, and I'll caution you on this one as well. I just hate to see us invest a lot of money in renovating something inside the city of Goldsboro when your secondary's there too, in the same boundaries. That's just a concern I've always had.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a good point, and what's tied in with this too is this whole issue of backup PSAP.
Yeah.
And of course, if we go with Greene County, it may be that we end up utilizing theirs as a secondary
That's
PSAP.
correct.
But the other thing is just remember, it doesn't have to be a physical location. You can contract with another county. And so that's a possibility as well.
Yeah.
But your point's well made. If we're going to have two physical locations, then that is an issue, because the backup one over here at the Board of Elections is too close to the one we have.
And let's always keep in mind our partners at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base approach them about a secondary as well.
Right.
I mean, I know it's hard sometimes to access, but I think that
Right.
would be a good location and different telephone exchange and away from, that's all, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, I just want to ask Mr. Curley, hey, this is a thought question, this is your opinion, I guess. The regional approach with Greene County, you're comfortable that we won't lose any reaction time and all that stuff that's important to the man is.
No, I think actually, and this has been tried and true in Lenore and Jones County at a regional concept, and I think both counties would benefit from it. I think Wayne County would gain out of it, and as Mr. Wood said too, Greene County would gain out of it as using theirs as a secondary center too. So I think both counties would actually benefit from it.
But your last part of your comments was that, if I read you right, your concern will be renovating inside the city versus going out into virgin land. Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
One of two things, either your primary or secondary doesn't need to be in the same boundary as the other. Like, I do know that William Street and John Street are on two different power grids, or I think they are, which is good. If you lose power in one, you've always got generators, but there's a chance for a generator to fail too, so you're just eliminating the points of failure. But if you had a hazardous material incident, if you had to vacate one building, more likely, as close as they are, you have to vacate the second one. So, that was my point.
Thank you.
Mr. Dodd.
Well, this is a mouthful. Am I understanding you wanting us to approve an RFQ today?
Yeah, we just want to issue it. And that way, then we'll go through the selection process for the architect. But we need to get on it if we're going to have some architectural assistance on this grant. That's why I'm pushing for it as quickly.
What would be the scope of work of the architect?
Right here on page 50. Those 5 bullet points.
Mr. Manager, if we were connecting the dots, that I hear you say earlier, it would be comparable to what we did with the jail, the Is that comparable?
Well,
Did I
yeah,
hear you
because,
say-
Ed, if you remember with the jail, we were looking at the regional prison, and we had to make a decision there. We had to make a decision about Williams Street. We made a decision about whether expanding over here. Here, we're really down to two options, as I see it. One's new, one's a renovation. And you got all of those questions that Commissioner Gurley brought up about a backup center, you know, because he's absolutely right. You don't want to do two backup centers together. They need to be source separated. So, because, and the idea is, like you mentioned, the electrical grid, there's also the thing, if a tornado comes through, you got a higher likelihood of taking them both out if they're within 2 blocks of each other. You know, you want them a few miles apart where survivability.
So in essence, you're wanting us to go ahead and approve the process so that we can go ahead and get started, just like you did the jail, and
That's
so we
right.
can keep moving.
And again, what's pushing it is, we have a chance to get a whole lot of state money, maybe to cover, I wouldn't say the whole cost, Joe, but pretty
Good
close.
portion.
And so, we don't want to miss that 1-year window, or you're sitting here another year. And we already know we got issues there. So, what we're trying to do is get some architectural help in here enough to where we hopefully can make those decisions. And then if we're on the bubble, then our argument would be go for new, because you can, you know, that'll be the most expensive, and then we can always back off to a renovation. But I do think we need to look at both options and see what makes sense, but you gotta factor in all of these aspects. Now, I will say this, you know, obviously, we want to restrict this to people who have done 911 centers, just like we did when we did the jail. Because these are unique buildings. I think, Joe, you would agree with that?
Yes.
You don't need somebody who's never done one. It's a unique animal, and there are a few firms in the state who specialize in this. I'm not pushing Mosley, but they are one who does specialize in this. That's why they brought Dan Mace in on it. But it makes a difference having somebody who can quickly go in, knows how to build them, and can make an assessment on that building and say, is it feasible to even do a renovation or not? And if so, roughly, how's that gonna compare with new?
Mr. Chairman, can we wrap it all up with one motion, get both of them?
Can I ask one
Yes, you
question?
sure can.
Before we go there? Under the proposed scope, or the projected scope, in there, I don't see where we're asking the architect to advise us or to do some findings on a regional approach with Greene County. I'd like him to, of course, explore that, because that may be more cost-effective in, I could see some benefits of having two counties sharing the cost of operation.
There is, and I guess I was viewing that as part of the new one, Joe, but we
Okay.
can flesh that out.
All right, so in other words, that would be part of the scope.
Yes, it will, but will you make a note, and let's make sure we flesh that out in here.
All right.
Yeah, no, that's a
And
good
we're not
point.
obligating to do any of this. All we're doing is trying to hire an architect to come in and advise us what the different costs would be and
That's
so
right.
forth. Is
That's
that
right,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And the second part is what we fully intended when we hired Mission Critical in the first place, which was to get their help on the grant. Because they have an excellent track record on the grants. There's no need to try to do that in-house with our staff when you got somebody that,
And one
As
last
a
question,
100%.
and I'm understanding, we're going to actually try to present this for an absolute grant from 911 to pay for the cost of this. Is
yes,
that
as
correct?
much as we possibly can. And the other aspect, and this is part of where Mission Critical will be helpful too, is they know what the 911 board will and won't fund. As you remember, we have a fairly substantial fund balance there that if we have to spend any money on it, we want to see if they'll allow us to free some of that up. And Joe and I have already had a discussion about that.
All right.
So, because they're not going to let you use that money for anything else, so it's just sitting there.
Well, Mr. Gurley, are you going to go ahead and make your motion?
I will make a motion. Can we wrap two into one, do individually? Which would you prefer?
I guess together. Now, one thing, I guess we should do them separate, because Borden would like you to approve the one with Mission Critical, because, subject to a couple of minor revisions we want to make in the agreement with them. Did I cover that okay? Good.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move we enter a contract with Mission Critical for the grant proposal based upon a couple of minor changes that were just mentioned and any necessary budget amendments Ms. Hope might need for us to do.
That's on item number 4.
That is correct.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor from Mr. Gurley. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. All right, now let's take care of number 3.
Well, wait a minute, that was 3, wasn't it, the architect? That was 4,
4.
excuse me, okay, all right.
Now we authorize, make a motion to authorize RFQ for qualifications of architectural and feasibility study for 911 Center, Communications Center.
I have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Thank y'all.
Okay.
Next item, number 5, Mr. Wood.
Mr. Chairman, on page 75 and 76 of your packet, number 5 is a motion to approve municipal engineering contract amendment for professional engineering services related to providing sanitary sewer to Grantham Middle School and the appropriate budget amendment. You have the contract before you. Basically, if you look at page 2, the 2 things they're doing is a boundary topographic survey and recombination plat with the description performed on an hourly basis. Their estimated fee is $8,700. Then we have the preliminary soils field work, evaluation and soils mapping for a lump sum basis of $1,610. So the reason he separated those out, of course, one is a firm price and the other is based on the estimated hours there. And he's done the survey work for you, I believe, for the boundary survey.
And the plat's been recorded.
So we've closed on the property and everything.
Closed on the
We haven't
property,
closed the property. Plat's been recorded. Okay, very good. That's right, not the deed. the plat.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty.
I move that we approve municipal engineering contract amendment for professional engineering services related to providing sanitary sewer to Grantham Middle School and an appropriate budget amendment.
I have a motion on the floor. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Doherty.
under discussion,
Mhm.
we need to move on this.
He's-
We
he's-
need to rapidly move on this.
And he's already doing the survey.
I understand he is doing
Yeah,
some work.
so we're moving.
but We need to really stay behind them.
That's right.
Because we would like to try to catch up on some time because we're behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? No other comments? I have a motion on the floor for item number 5. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Ms. Holt, budget amendments.
Okay, we'll begin with budget amendment number 262. This is for the 4-H after-school program. It's $6,780 to reallocate funds for communications, travel, vehicle supplies, food, and special program supplies. And this is supported by fees.
What's the pleasure of the board on budget amendment 262?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion on the floor that we approve budget amendment 262. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Budget amendment number 271 for the Department of Social Services, $2,944.46 to anticipate and appropriate additional funds awarded by Duke Energy Progress.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pate.
motion to approve.
I have a motion on the floor. We approve budget amendment 271. Any discussion? If no discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Budget 272, 273, and 274 is for the sheriff and the jail. 272 for the sheriff is to decrease line items to reduce unspent concealed weapon funds designated for a full-time position that is moving to part-time. And then what we're doing is moving concealed weapon funds that he had appropriated out for this full-time position. And now he's putting it back into his concealed weapon restricted funds.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve that. It's good to see that money going back into concealed weapons.
Did you want that, act on them individually, or?
No, no, I move that we adopt 272.
I have a motion on the floor, we adopt budget amendment 272, any discussion? All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
Oh, he does have another, I'm sorry.
273 is for the sheriff, is to anticipate and appropriate controlled substance funds received, $1,619.66.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Camardi,
I move that we approve 273.
I have a motion on the floor, we approve budget amendment 273, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries. Unanimous.
Budget amendment number 274 is for the jail, $75,000. We're using appropriated fund balance to appropriate funds for housing inmates with major medical or behavioral problems in the Department of Corrections while awaiting trial.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion on the floor that we approve budget amendment 274, any discussion?
That's a big sum. Can we get an explanation?
We got Thane here.
Okay, maybe you can explain it.
I think when we did the last budget.
Come up to the microphone,
I think when we did the last budget amendment, we cut that, back last year for safekeeping. And our safekeeping bill, we've had a lot of doctor bills at safekeeping that have caused our, funds to just go outright. We just had like a $16,000-$17,000 bill for one inmate. We had to carry to safekeeping that had to be put in the hospital there. And this is the reason why our funds is gone.
And this is where they actually take them to a Department of Corrections facility, right?
Yes.
This one was shipped out to the hospital there.
Yeah.
Yes, but he was in the Department of Correction. But they could not do his medical treatments, so they had to take him to a local hospital.
I'm not understanding what safekeeping is. What is safekeeping?
Safekeeping is a place that we use for central prison, where we have inmates that we can't control. The medical expenses is so expensive that we can't control it here, that we ship them out to safekeeping at central prison.
But the county's still obligated for those charges, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
But they can be done cheaper there than if we,
Most of the medical expenses is done through the correctional department, but this situation was not something they could not do, that had to be shipped out to a local hospital.
And this will not change when we get our new jail. This is just the ongoing procedure for these types of inmates.
Yes.
And not only that, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bell.
we will not have to provide security staff when they ship them out to central prison. See?
Right.
If you go to a local hospital, y'all will have to provide the security people.
Right, central prison handles that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Pleasure. We have a motion on the floor, any other discussion? All in favor of budget amendment 274, show sign of right hand. Motion carries.
Number 275 is for the Department of Social Services, $420,750, to anticipate and appropriate Medicaid transportation funds for the remainder of the 14-15 fiscal year, and this is no county funds.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion on the floor, we approve budget amendment 275, any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Number 277 is for the 911 Center to transfer funds to trade-in for purchase of Harris portable radios. And they are decreasing the service and maintenance contracts by $113,500 and increasing security supplies for the same amount.
And if y'all remember, we had a discussion about this, and we were getting the trade-in on these. So we were able to come up with the money this way for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor.
didn't we, excuse me, didn't we have a budget amendment a month or so ago for 68,000?
Sheriff's Office.
Oh,
This
that
is
was it.
911 here.
Okay, all right.
pleasure of the board.
Question. Explain it to me again, I forgot.
Sure, yes, sir, I will. Commissioners, it took about 2 years, it took some ugly name calling and some arm twisting, but we got Harris to agree. With the current radios, portables that we have, they upgraded them at about a 47% discount for the new Phase 2 compliant portable radios. This is something that we worked on for probably 2 years, and finally it came to fruition. And we were able to take advantage of that. And the sheriff did his money about a month and a half ago, and we just found ours.
Okay.
With this about completed for us?
Yes, sir.
Well, good. How about solid waste?
No, so we only have 5 agencies that took advantage of it.
It's too late for solid waste.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
December 9th, I believe, was the deadline.
Mr. Chairman.
They did extend it to the last day of the year, I think, didn't
They did.
they? They extended to, yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr. Gurley.
Mr.
Yes.
I mean, would you please elaborate on what you,
Solid waste is on the radio system as well for their transport vehicles. And I was asking, did they take advantage of this program?
I guess I must be asking a dumb question. Why would any department, you're talking about solid waste in Wayne County,
Yeah.
Yes.
why would any department have an option?
It depended on, I think, what we were mandated was if we had the money in current budget that we could find, then we could partake. And so we were able to find some money, and I think the Sheriff's Office found some money, and we had 3 other departments that found some.
But I just thought that as we move forward, we wouldn't be leaving any department behind that would not, all of a sudden we find out that they're beside a big pine tree and they can't communicate. I'm just,
They're still be able to communicate with the portals.
okay, but they still didn't get in on the last,
Right.
Right.
and they had an option not to, because we didn't have the
They had
money.
the opportunity to,
They didn't have the funds to get in on that.
exactly. I assume.
Okay.
Mr. Wood, you want to comment on it anymore? I mean,
No, that's how we presented it, is if they wanted to make the changeover, they needed to come up with the money. And remember, that's a self-supporting fund there.
That's my point.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding this, and that is that basically we were going to have to improve and change out our radios at some time in the future. We're just doing it ahead of time and saving and buying them at a discount of 47%. That's almost half.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And-
So it was kind of wise to go ahead and take advantage of that.
Well, that's right, and I think Tim felt like, remember, these guys are public safety, he's not, he's just using it as a public works radio.
And these were only portables?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So they probably don't use portables that much. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other discussion? Did I have a motion on the floor? We've discussed it so much.
I move adoption of 277.
Have a motion on the floor for Budget Amendment 277. Any other discussion? No discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Number 278 is also for the 911 center. It's to transfer salary and overtime balances to extra help and straight time overtime. And this is just switching between the different segments of salaries over in 911. So they may use one area, when they do the original budget, they'll budget what they think they'll use, and they're using it in the people at different times, so they're moving them from the salaries and wages to extra help and straight time overtime. It's not an increase to the budget.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion on the floor, we approve Budget Amendment 278. Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, number 279 is for the schools, to transfer funds for professional services for sanitary sewer, Grantham Middle School, $20,810, and this is part of what y'all just approved prior with the budget amendment. It is, we had a previous appropriation of $118,200, and we have a contract for $128,700, for a difference of $10,500. Plus, we have $8,700 for a boundary topographic survey and $1,610 for field work and soil mapping for new property purchased for the sewer system. And y'all remember, we just purchased that new property, so there's some additional cost on that.
Mr. Chairman, I move adoption of 279.
I have a motion on the floor. We adopt Budget Amendment 279. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
The next budget amendment, number 280, is also for the schools, and if you'll remember, as a board, you agreed to pay for bad soils, and this is to appropriate funds for parking lot undercut that had to be performed because of bad soils at Grantham Middle School, and that is $20,163.48.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Kamara.
I move that we approve 280.
I have a motion on the floor. We approve Budget Amendment 280. Any discussion?
Question.
Mr. Pate.
It says Grantham Spring Creek, or is it just for Grantham, or is it for both?
Oh, that's just, we've got those, that's just the accounting part of it. It's actually just for
But it
Grantham.
said Grant, okay, that's all, that's what I was asking. Because I thought the soil was over there in Spring Creek.
Any other discussion? No other discussion. All in favor of Budget Amendment 280, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
And then number 281 is also for the 911 center, $18,350 to appropriate funds for shipping and freight for the tower sites. But when we had the tower sites, we didn't know about the shipping and freight costs, so that's $18,350 we need.
But who in the world are we getting to move them?
Well, that was the towers and the buildings, and that was the whole package
They
on
was
both
bringing it
towers.
to us.
And permits, that's a big part, is
Yeah,
permits.
Permit loads are expensive.
I'm in the wrong business.
Mr. Chairman, I move adoption of 281.
I have a motion on the floor. We adopt Budget Amendment 281. Any discussion?
Just a comment, man, it's a lot of money maybe I just don't know what it costs to move that kind of stuff. But hope we don't have a lot more surprises like this.
Diesel fuel is high.
Yeah, the diesel fuel don't really play into this. Anytime you have a permit load, it's, I mean, you can only run in daylight hours, you have to have an escort. I mean, it's expensive.
And if this isn't a surprise, it was known up front we were gonna have this expense. It just didn't know how much it was gonna be at the time. You wouldn't know until the time of.
Okay.
So it's not a
So we just didn't have it
surprise.
budgeted.
Any other discussion?
Well, I also want to make certain that it was actually transporting the building too, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, you actually.
And the generators. I mean,
You
it
know,
was,
that was a lot involved here. It just wasn't just one little trip.
I have a motion on the floor for Budget Amendment 281. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 10, Mr. Mayor.
If my voice will hold out, we have a resolution in opposition to the recent ruling on same-sex marriage that I wanted to bring before the commissioners. And I'd like to, if my voice will hold out, I would like to read the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It's a resolution in opposition to the recent ruling on same-sex marriage. Whereas in May of 2012, the voters of North Carolina voted victoriously to amend the North Carolina Constitution protecting marriage, and whereas prior to the rulings by Judge Cogburn and Judge Osteen, the word marriage meant only a legal union between one man and one woman as husband and wife, and the word spouse referred only to a person of the opposite sex who is a husband or wife. And whereas on Friday, October 10th, 2014, United States District Court Judge Max Cogburn ruled that Article 14, Section 6 of the North Carolina Constitution, Amendment 1, North Carolina 51-1, which defines marriages being between a man and a woman, and 51, which prohibits recognition of same-sex marriage in other states, and all sources of state law that prohibit same-sex marriage or its recognition are unconstitutional under the due process and equal protection clauses of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And whereas on Tuesday, October 14, 2014, United States District Court Judge William Osteen ruled that Article 14, Section 6 of the North Carolina Constitution Amendment 1, North Carolina General Statutes 51-1 and 51-2 are unconstitutional under the due process and equal protection clauses of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And whereas this ruling will have a negative impact on our churches, businesses, charity organizations, government offices, society, and our educational system. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners strongly opposes the ruling that Article 14, Section 6 of the North Carolina Constitution, Amendment 1, North Carolina General Statute 51-1, which defines marriage as being between a man and a woman, and 51-1.2, which prohibits recognition of same-sex marriage in other states, and all sources of state law that prohibit same-sex marriage or its recognition are unconstitutional under the due process and equal protection clauses of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. And be it further resolved that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners strongly requests that this ruling be reviewed and reconsidered to protect the foundation on which America was established. And be it further resolved that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners strongly urges everyone in opposition of this decision to let their voices be heard and encourages everyone to recognize, quote, marriage between one man and one woman is the only domestic legal union that shall be valid or recognized in this state. This section does not prohibit a private party from entering into contracts with another private party, nor does this section prohibit courts from adjudicating the rights of private parties pursuant to such contracts. At this time, I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that since the marriage amendment was passed in 2012 in Wayne County by 75.544%, and also across the state of North Carolina, it was passed in May of 2012 by 61.04%. I would like to make a motion at this time that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners adopt this resolution as read in support of the voters' wishes of Wayne County and the state of North Carolina.
I have a motion on the floor. Any adjustments or discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to offer a motion, an amendment to Mr. Mel's resolution. Pass it. Mr. Chairman.
Just 1 minute. Yes, sir.
Okay, resolution concerning ruling on same-sex marriage. Whereas in May 2012, the voters of North Carolina voted substantially to amend the North Carolina Constitution protecting marriage, Amendment Number 1. And whereas the word marriage meant only legal union between one man and one woman, husband or wife, and the word spouse refer only to a person of the opposite sex who is the husband or wife. And whereas the Fourth Circuit of the United States Court of Appeal ruled that prohibition of the same gender marriage was unconstitutional. And whereas the United States District Court judge who now rules that prohibition of the same-sex gender marriage is unconstitutional. And whereas the United States Court of Appeal in another part of the country has ruled that the prohibition of same-gender marriage is not a violation of the United States Constitution. And whereas the United States Supreme Court has agreed to hear the matter to resolve the difference between the two circuits. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Wayne County Board of Commissioners that the North Carolina Attorney General represent the citizens of North Carolina to uphold the amended North Carolina Constitution and unanimous brief, if necessary, before the United States Supreme Court. And be it further resolved that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners direct the, excuse me, I can't see right now, that a copy of the resolution be sent to the North Carolina Attorney General and the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. George Wayne Acock, Chairman. And I put that in the form of a motion.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor, and I have a motion for an amendment from Mr. Bell. Pleasure of the board.
Already off the motion.
That's right. I have a motion. I have to act on Mr. Bell's first.
To amend initial motion, yes, sir.
Okay. I have a motion on the floor to amend the original motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor.
is this, will this clear up, Mr. Parker? Will this take the place of my original motion?
If it is adopted, if the amendment is adopted, then that would be what would be before the board, and then you'd have to vote on that as an amended motion.
Okay, well, the bottom line is that, is this a time to make comments on the amended?
Yes, sir.
The amended resolution that was just read by Mr. Bell is basically a watered-down version of what the citizens of North Carolina and the citizens of Wayne County voted for in 2015. And the other thing is the original resolution that I read has been passed by other counties that are neighboring Wayne County. This is where I got this idea, is when we were at Pinehurst. I've heard of other counties that were looking at this, and this is the resolution that needs to be brought forward, and everyone from the legislature to the Governor Pat McCrory, congressmen, state and federal judges, and even other government agencies, we need to stand behind the voters of Wayne County and the voters of the state. Otherwise, what kind of government do we have if the people have no say so? They've already voted. This is just a reinforcement of what the voters have already said. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I have a motion on the.
Mr. Chairman.
Page.
You know, I've thought about this at great length, about how I feel about same-sex marriage. And I've kind of moved to a more of a libertarian view of this. And I'm not sure it's government's right to be in the bedroom and to tell people what they've got to do. However, having said that, I do believe strongly in state rights. And this county and this state voted overwhelmingly against same-sex marriage. And either one that goes up, I can support. Now, I do like the The information is on this one that gives the direction to the North Carolina Attorney General to file the amicus brief to go to the Supreme Court. So perhaps the combination of the two would be more appropriate. I don't know. That's just my thoughts.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Martin.
it is interesting that this would come back before us on either piece of paper, because as I've heard eloquently said already, that the citizens of North Carolina voted already as to their preference, had the opportunity to do it in private without this board either saying yea or nay, because we trust the citizens to be able to go into the booth and make their decisions. And that's what they did. But add to that, I'm not one to be intrusive in other folk affairs. I know how I voted, and along with my wife, on the same day. But in discussion with my children, I told them, Daddy, how should you gonna vote? I say, you vote the way that you feel like you should. We're out of different generations and have different clientele of friends. So you go make up your mind. I never did ask them how they voted. And I don't feel like that I particularly, and I'm use the right word, I hope, resent that I will be put in a position of making my vote known on that when it's not what I would consider the mainstay of this board is to conduct the business of the Wayne County citizens. They have already spoken. But the one thing that brings my attention to the second one, whereas the United States Supreme Court has agreed to hear the matter to resolve the difference between the circuits. I have noticed that in many instances, when the Supreme Court is going to do something or handle something that favors a certain group, they may be in favor of it. Chance that history might say that the Supreme Court is going to go a different way, another group is not in favor of it. This case, I think that we should let it all play out through the courts and let the Supreme Court go ahead and make their ruling and see if they would satisfy anyone as well as they did or did not satisfy their judgments on voter rights and voter IDs and all the other things that come before them. So we need to give the courts a chance to reach their final conclusion because the citizens of North Carolina have already voted as I did.
Mr. Chairman, I'll call the question. I'll call the question.
Okay, I have a call for question. No more discussion. I have an amendment to Mr. Mayo's resolution. All in favor of the amendment, show sign of right hand. All opposed? 6 to 1, Marshall. 1 opposed, 6 vote. Now I need to call on a vote from Mr. Mayo.
It would be appropriate that there could be more discussion, but it has been changed now. What we will be voting on now is what Mr. Bell read.
Okay, is there any more discussion on the original resolution? If so.
Just a
Mr.
question,
Doherty.
point of clarification. We're taking another vote here on the motion, original motion, but with a substitute.
That's
amendment.
right.
Is that correct?
The original motion has now been amended, and so what Mr. Bell read is what you will be voting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
What
Any
was
other
the previous?
discussion?
I'm sorry. What was the previous vote we just did?
That was to amend your motion.
Okay.
And so,
Okay. Got it.
So we're holding on what?
Any other discussion?
We're voting on an amended motion.
All in favor of the amended motion, show sign of right hand. All opposed? Ms. Marshall showed it 6 to 1, 1 against, 6 for. Where we at
manager's comments?
Mr. Chairman, in the interest of time, I'll keep them short, but one thing I did want to make you aware of is Sheriff Pierce has been working with Noel Woods with Southern Health Partners and Prime Health. We currently have a contract with Southern Health Partners on our jail medical services, and if y'all remember, when the sheriff changed that, he saved us over $30,000 on that. Southern Health Partners has come back to us. We currently have a month-to-month contract with Prime Health to where they charge us a percentage on each healthcare bill they scrub for us. Scrubbing just means they review it to see if it's reasonable and all that. Southern Health Partners is willing to do that for $3,000 a year. We paid Prime Health approximately $16,756 last year because theirs is based on a percentage. So basically, we could save, in the past year, had we been with Southern Partners, we could have saved $13,756. So the sheriff obviously wants to switch over to Southern Health Partners. Of course, he has the authority to do that. I'm just simply informing you that he's going to do that, but I just thought we ought to commend him for saving over $13,700 of money there. So,
Mr. Daugherty.
You did that yesterday?
Over a period of time.
Okay. Good idea. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. The other thing, just wanted to mention, the main thing, of course, we're working on is the budget, the CIP. We are also looking at doing a fleet replacement schedule as part of the budget this year. We developed a spreadsheet. We're working with IT, the Sheriff's Department, and with other department heads on that. So that'll be a more formalized way of reviewing all of our fleet as you get into the budget this year. So that'll be an additional tool. It won't be included in the budget, but it will be a tool we'll use to put the budget together, and then we'll go through that with you. But essentially, we'll be looking at a 10-year spreadsheet for replacing every piece of rolling stock we have, and whether or not we need to keep it or not. So with that, we're making good progress on it. We've had several meetings already, and the CIPs are due into us shortly, and then we'll start that process as well. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Commissioners' committee reports and comments. Mr. Bell?
Yes, I have, I met with East Point last Tuesday, and the consolidation of counties is sort of not really on hold, but it's not moving too fast right now. Some of the people that was supposed to merge with us have backed out, and but we're still trying to get some other participants to participate with us. But I would like to copy some stuff down. East Point received one of four states. It's one of 4 states that received a grant of about $2.2 million to build a crisis center. It's going to be built in Lumberton, North Carolina, which is part of our catchment area. We received 2 state awards in December. Number 1 was the implementation of the Community Crisis Center, and the other one was the anti-bullying program that East Point has been doing over our catchment area. But other than that, everything is going pretty good. They still want to meet with the county, and because I heard a report from East Point last week as they were talking about what each county is participating in funding, and I sort of had to sit there and listen to Wayne County say, no funds coming from Wayne County. So, and we're one of the largest counties in the catchment area, so I think we ought to take another look at that sometime in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pate?
Thank you. we all went to the fireman's banquet and really enjoyed that, so I won't go into detail because you're all there. And
And you and I sit at the same table.
yeah, I sat beside John and gave me $100. And we went to all basic community council, we were there, so I won't go over that. And the legislative meeting, it's always good to sit down with our legislative friends and discuss the needs of Wayne County and what they can help us out with. We had a long DSS meeting the other day, and one of the bigger things that we talked about was, of course, NC Fast, and it doesn't have a, part of that system doesn't allow to put notes, case management, that kind of thing there. So they're been having for years to scan that stuff, and it gets sent, it goes to Uber or somewhere, where it goes, and stored with the company. But they had opportunity to get a 75% payment from the state to pay for a system called Northwoods, and I know that you used it in your county. And that'll allow them to have case management files there that they can scan and keep on their equipment there, so they won't have to be stacking things everywhere. It's estimated it'll save workers about 2 hours a day. We don't have enough room now to add people over there, so if we could cut down the amount of hours that people are having to do their job more effectively, then we can contain those personnel dollars. And I appreciate that yourself and Steve Cross and everybody working on that equipment request. We had a short window to get a lot of money, get the money to pay for a lot of equipment, and I can't remember what that final bill was. Do you recall what it was?
I remember that.
Anyway, it was a substantial amount of money, but you will not be getting a budget amendment from us because they got the money in their thing to pay the 25%. But I thought that was a very important meeting, and I thought I had that stuff with me, but I don't seem to have it. Anyway, we also had a long discussion about the possibilities of a 5-day work week. And we made clear to them at that meeting that in our retreat that we were just discussing this, no decisions have been made. And, and we certainly don't want to pull the rug out from under anybody. If we did, it would be sometime in the future. It's not going to be next week. But Debbie was working on to find out who could work when, that kind of thing. So she was trying to get ahead of the game. But some people read that wrong. So I just want to be clear, no decisions have been made. And we left that at that meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Floyd.
The committees that I usually meet with, I met with them in the first part of the month, and so I forego my opportunity to see anything else today.
Could I interrupt this?
Sure.
Bill, going back to what you requested, Tommy has those numbers. The amount of money, the state grant was $126,392. County share at 25% was $42,000. So this was a substantial savings to the county. And basically what it does is it allows us to put scanners on each desk so that as they complete a project, they scan it in and it's into the record system automatically. So, and what we did find in Lincoln County is it increased the productivity dramatically, because what you're doing is you're building an electronic database that then everybody else can tap those same records if they have the clearance for that area. So it really is a move towards automating these records, and that's the real benefit of it. But that's the numbers there.
Yeah, and a number of counties have already moved to it.
Mr. Doug.
I want to bring to everybody's attention that we have moved the date of the Wayne County Transportation Committee meeting. It was scheduled for this month, February the 19th. We're moving that to March the 19th. It will be held at noon at Lane Tree, but that is a one-month delay. And at that meeting, you're going to get some updates regarding Gateway. First of all, I want to commend Ms. Holt and Mr. Wood and Fred Fontana for taking time to sit down and analyze the financials on Gateway. We've just completed the 6 months, and to bring everybody back up and memory back up, if you'll recall, Gateway reverted back to a charge of per ride at $12, which was substantially less than what the current rate was at that time. After 6 months, They have reviewed all of that and have made appropriate adjustments in the budget to where we're on track using that rate. And right now, I think we were about $30,000 or so dollars in the red at that point. The other thing that it did discover, and that was there was approximately $350,000 of reserves in the rural side for Gateway, so that we could actually use some of those reserves if we continue with that $30,000 deficit. But things are looking they're looking up at Gateway. We are on track to have the laptops and the GPS tracking all inputted in each one of these rural vans by the end of this month. The rebranding, this is extremely important. I've heard complaints about our buses going through and our vans going through the county, and they just don't have a lot of eye appeal. And that is being addressed, and we're hoping by the time we open the transfer center that there will be a total rebranding of Gateway. The Chamber had their annual meeting, and I was excited to be there. I was pleased to see that Emily Will received the Cornerstone Award this year. She's well deserving. She and her husband, David, have worked real hard in Wayne County. I attended my first WCDA board meeting, and again, I'm learning as that goes along. So, well, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the time here, and I do want to make one comment on the marriage amendment, and that is, I think everyone here supports the will of the voters and what they went to the polls and voted on. But we also must recognize that this right now is in the courts, and we need to send a message to our legal representative for the state, and that in fact is the Attorney General of North Carolina, and urge him to support the Constitution as adopted by the citizens. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mayor.
Well, just about everything that I attended has been talked about. The Firefighters Association. We did have the announcement for the Advanced Manufacturing Center that we had up here, and of course we all are excited about that, about the purchase of the former busing building. But I have already reminded the college, Kay Albertson, and the Wayne County Development Alliance that, and all of us, the hard work is just beginning. We got the building, but there's a lot of work to be put forth. Also, I went to the Chamber of Commerce meeting as Commissioner Daugherty. I sort of wanted to take time here for just a moment to recognize a great man that we lost. And he spoke to us here before the county commissioners on behalf of Ashby Hills. His name was Michael, from the Salem Church area. And Wayne, Commissioner Aycock and I went to school with Michael. Michael was a pillar not only in the Salem Church community, but across Wayne County. Michael was a longtime member of Salem United Methodist Church, but he served as choir director for 40 years at Salem Church. He was involved in a multitude of activities. He was a retired accountant from the Universal Leaf Tobacco Company. So Wayne County and of course Salem Church area and Salem Church is really going to miss Michael and his energy that he brought forward. Even though he may not have felt like it, he portrayed the energy. He rode in the, if you remember, they had a parade in Ashby Hills when the lights were turned on, street lights. And he rode in the golf cart with Commissioner Payton and I. Little did we know that a little over a month later, he would be gone. So I guess a lesson to be learned for all of us here. The last thing I wanted to bring up is that I have requested that Marcia put in our packets a copy of ethics that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners had approved actually back in September, on September 21st of 2010. And it has the minutes that are included, but I wanted to take just a minute to remind all of us as commissioners of our code of ethics. And if somebody else wants to read this, my voice is about gone. Could somebody else read just the code of ethics part? Is anybody?
I'm glad to read.
Okay.
That's on page 2, right?
Yes, sir.
The purpose of this code of ethics is to establish guidelines for the ethical standards of conduct for Wayne County Board of Commissioners and to help determine what conduct is appropriate in particular cases. It should not be considered a substitute for the law or for the board members' best judgment. County Commissioners obey the law. All members of the Board of Commissioners for Wayne County should obey all laws applicable to their official actions as members of the board. Board members should be guided by the spirit as well as the letter of law in whatever they do. County Commissioners shall uphold the integrity and independence of the office. All members of the Board of Commissioners for Wayne County should demonstrate the highest standard of personal integrity, truthfulness, honesty, and fortitude in all public activities in order to inspire public confidence and trust in county government. They should participate in establishing, maintaining, and enforcing, and should observe high standards of conduct so that the integrity and independence of office may be preserved. County Commissioner shall avoid impropriety and the appearance of impropriety in all of his or her activities. It's essential that the county government attract those citizens best qualified and willing to serve. County Commissioners have legitimate interest, economic, professional, and vocational of a private nature. A county commissioner should not be denied, should not deny to other commissioners or citizens the opportunity to acquire, retain, and pursue private interests, economic or otherwise, except when it conflicts with the responsibility to the Republic and cannot be avoided. Each member of the Wayne County Commission should exercise his or her best judgment to determine when this is the case. Members should respect and comply with the law and conduct at all times in a manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity of the office of County Commissioner and of county government. Members should not allow family, social, or other relationships to unduly influence their conduct or judgment and should not lend the prestige of the office of County Commissioner to advance the private interest of others, nor should he or she convey or permit others to convey the impression that he or she is in a special position to influence them. If a county commissioner believes his or her actions, while legal and ethical, may be misunderstood, the member should seek the advice of the county attorney and should publicly disclosing the facts of the situation and the steps taken to resolve it. County commissioner shall perform the duties of office diligently. County commissioner should perform the office as prescribed by law in his or her activities and should give precedence to those duties over other activities. In the performance of these duties, the following standards shall apply. Legislative responsibilities. County commissioners should actively pursue commendable and important policy goals they believe to be in the best interest of their constituents with the parameters of orderly decision-making, rules of the Board of County Commissioners, and open government. County Commissioners respect the legitimacy of the goals and interests of other county commissioners and shall respect the rights of others to pursue goals and policy different from their own. Adjudicative responsibilities. County Commissioners should be faithful to the general and local laws pertaining to the office and strive for professional competence in them. They should be unswayed by partisan interests, public clamor, or fear of criticism. County Commissioners should demand and contribute to the maintenance of order and decorum in proceedings before the Board of County Commissioners. County Commissioners should be honest, patient, dignified, and courteous to those with whom they deal in their official capacity, and they should require similar conduct of staff. County Commissioners should accord to every person who is legally interested in a proceeding before the Commission full right to be heard according to law. County Commissioners should dispose properly of the business of Wayne County. Administrative responsibilities. County Commissioners should clearly distinguish legislative, judiciary, and administrative responsibilities and should refrain from inappropriate interference in the impartial administration of county affairs by county employees. Commissioners should diligently discharge these administrative responsibilities that are appropriate, should maintain professional competence in the administration of these duties, and should facilitate the diligent discharge of the administrative responsibilities of fellow commissioners and other county officials. County commissioners should conserve the resources of the county, employ county equipment, property, funds, and personal only in legally permissible pursuits and in a manner that exemplifies excellent stewardship. County commissioners shall conduct the affairs of the board in an open and public manner. County commissioners must be aware of the letter and intent of the state open meetings law and conduct the affairs of the board of commissioners consistent with the letter and spirit of the law and consistent with the need to inspire and maintain public confidence in the integrity and fairness of county government and the office of county commissioner. Consistent with this goal of preserving public trust, county commissioners shall be aware of the need for discretion in deliberations when the lack of discretion would pose a threat to the resources of the county, to the reputation of current or potential county employees, to orderly and responsible decision-making, to the integrity of other governmental processes or other legitimate interests of the county. County commissioners should be informed concerning campaign finance, conflict of interest, and other appropriate state and federal laws will scrupulously comply with the provisions of such laws. Each member shall refrain from financial or business dealings that tend to reflect adversely on the board or on county government or to interfere with the proper performance of official duties. Each member shall manage his or her personal financial interests to minimize the number of cases in which he or she must ask to be excused from voting on matters coming before the board. Each member should not disclose any information required in his or her official capacity as a county commissioner in financial dealings or for any other purposes not related to official duties. County commissioners shall refrain from political activity inappropriate to his or her office. County commissioners have a civic responsibility to support good government by every available means, to continue to inform and educate the citizenry about the affairs and processes of county government, and to make themselves available to citizens of the county so they may ascertain and respond to the needs of the community. In doing so, each member may join affiliate with civic organizations, whether partisan or nonpartisan, may and should attend political meetings of his or her choice, may and should advocate and support the principles and policies of civic or political organizations consistent with the Constitution and the laws of the United States and North Carolina. Each member should maintain the dignity appropriate to the office and will encourage members of his family, his or her family, to adhere to the same standards of political conduct that apply to commissioners. Each member should not make pledges or promises of conduct in office that he or she cannot or will not perform or illegal if were performed. And this code ethics was effective and adopted September 2010, 21st day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The reason I brought this up is that in my research, looking at our several neighboring counties, they have their ethics rules that they have adopted on their county website. And I wanted to make a motion this time that the Wayne County Board of Commissioners ethics rules that were adopted on September 21st, 2010, we put it on our county website on waynegov.com under the heading of commissioners. That's where it normally shows up on our neighboring counties, and just show everyone, including the citizens of Wayne County, that we do have an ethics, a code of ethics that has been adopted by the Wayne County Board of Commissioners. To be honest with you, I didn't know it. I did not know it until I'd asked Marcia to look it up. I think it would be a good idea to put it on our website, and I'll make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Pleasure of the board. I have a motion on the floor. Any discussion? I really thought that the business had been taken care of. I didn't know we were going to be conducting another motion during the comment section, but whatever, it's the pleasure of the board.
I'd like to ask Marshall a question. Marshall, will this reading of this take the place of that ethics training that Joe and I?
Absolutely not.
That'd be no.
Follow up. Have you signed us up for that? I mean, have we been signed up for it? Did I ask the wrong question?
Yes, sir, you did.
Pardon?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Pate.
that was a lot of reading I had to do, but probably most counties do have it on their website, don't they?
They do.
I don't see any problem with doing that. It's something that the board has already adopted anyway, so.
And then just for the benefit of the Board of Commissioners, the most of the stuff is in your commissioner handbook.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no problem with it being on the
I don't
website.
have a problem. I have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion?
I'd like to comment, I don't have a problem with it either, I'm certainly gonna vote for it, but I think in the future, certain things like this, we should go to county manager and ask for that to be put on the website. That's a minor issue that we could be taken care of without coming before the whole board. I think it's a normal procedure.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mayor.
this was approved by a previous board, and I'm not doing this for any other reason except to sort of go by what some of the other counties are doing. If we are gonna have a code of ethics, why not make it available for the citizens to read on our website? That's all I'm asking, is that we just make it available and let other counties know, or even people from outside the state that look at our WayneGov.com, let them know that we do have a code of ethics here in Wayne County. That's
I have a motion on the floor. All in favor, show sign of right hand. Motion carries unanimous. Mr. Mayor. Mr. Gurley.
Mr. Chairman, I do not want to take any of your comments away from you, but I do feel compelled to congratulate Mr. Charlie McClenny, this year's recipient of the G. Edgar Sumner Fireman of the Year Award. Truly deserving young man who's dedicated his adult life to the Smith Chapel Volunteer Fire Department. He's an outstanding individual. The Wayne Moore Hospital Board of Directors report did receive an approved audit ending September 30, 2014. Mr. Jim Park was elected chairman for year 2015. Mr. Jack Best was elected vice chair for the year 2015. And they also had a legislative breakfast for a local legislator held at Wayne Memorial Hospital on January 7th. And the facility committee has met. There's several items going on at the time, but the priority is the replacement of section of Genoa sewer line along 117, and we're waiting now for the results of a camera test to ensure the absolute need. And like most of y'all attended our local legislative breakfast, I thought it was very good. It's like all of us on the same page and moving forward. And Mr. Chairman, I'd like to publicly thank Connie Price and his staff for the hard work on the ordinances they provide for us. They have a hard chore ahead of them trying to appease all the personalities that they're faced with, but I do commend them for their efforts. And lastly, Mr. Chairman, recognize Dennis Hill here with us this morning. Dennis is a longtime friend of mine and a longtime friend of Wayne County, and a longtime news reporter. And I might want to add that Dennis Hill is a great news reporter. Dennis, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I'll keep mine as brief as I can. I would like to follow up on what Mr. Gurley said about Charlie McClenny as Fireman of the Year. Charlie's a great man. Not only was he Fireman of the Year in Wayne County this year, he was also inducted into the Farm Hall of Fame. So for them two honors in 1 year speaks highly for Charlie McClenny's character. As we all know, it's budget time. There's been several comments made and articles in the paper on us tightening our purse strings a little bit for different departments, nonprofits, and whatever. We are looking at the dollars, and it's for the interest of the citizens of Wayne County. But also, I want the public to know that the commissioners are doing the same thing on our expenditures for the county. We've been criticized for some of the functions that we go to, the National County Commissioners Association, the state. We've been criticized for what we spent in the past sometimes. But I just want the general public to know the summer convention last year, we only sent 2 commissioners, Commissioner Mayo and Commissioner Pate. They come back with some very valuable information. We got just as much out of it by 2 going as we did 7. Also, this coming the 2015 National Convention in Washington, D.C., we are sending nobody. We feel like that we probably get more out of the summer meetings than the national meeting. So, for the record, no one of the 7 is going to the national convention in Washington, D.C. And the summer one will be in Charlotte this year. We'll determine how many we're gonna send. Also, we had, 2 weeks ago, we had the legislature goals through the County Commissioners Association in Pinehurst. Our commissioner board, we had 5 of the commissioners. Mr. Camardi was sick, and Mr. Bell was tied up on something else. But on Thursday, 5 commissioners went. I was the voting delegate for Wayne County, so I had to stay over for Friday. I had planned to, and the other commissioners only stayed one day. Only expense that was to the county was to traveling back and forth, and they all traveled on the county van. I was scheduled to stay 2 nights. I only stayed 1. So I just want the general public to know, not only are we asking our department heads and our other agencies that we fund to tighten their belt, but we're doing the same thing. And the other events that's gone on during since the last meeting, most of them has been mentioned, and I appreciate the hard work for the Board of Commissioners. And let's just keep up the good work and move forward. Thank you.
One last thing, Mr. Chairman. I would like to wish a happy birthday to Tom, George, and Boyd. Right now.
All y'all having birthdays on the same day?
Yours is today, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yours is today. Well, happy birthday.
Tom was yesterday.
You want us to sing to you?
No. I've heard y'all say
Do I have a motion we adjourn?
51.
So moved.
Yeah, there you go.
I have a motion on the floor that we adjourn. No discussion. All in favor, show sign of right hand.